My name is Lorraine Bishop, and I'm 73 years old. Last month, I stood in my lawyer's office and signed over my beautiful 3-bedroom house, the home I'd lived in for 45 years, to a complete stranger. My 3 children were furious. They screamed at me. They threatened to have me declared incompetent. They said I was senile and didn't know what I was doing. But I knew exactly what I was doing. I was making sure my ungrateful, greedy children would never get their hands on the home I'd worked my entire life to pay for. Let me tell you how 3 children who I loved with all my heart turned into vultures circling my property. And let me tell you about the young woman I'd never met before who ended up getting everything they wanted. It was a Tuesday afternoon in September when my oldest daughter, Denise, called me. She's 48 years old, works as a real estate agent, and lives in Atlanta with her husband, Gregory, and their 2 teenage sons. "Mama, we need to talk," Denise said. Her voice had that tone, the one she uses when she wants something from me. "What is it, baby?" I asked. I was sitting in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd raised all 3 of my children, making myself a cup of tea. "It's about your house," Denise said. "What about my house?" I asked. "Mama, you're 73 years old," Denise said. "You're living alone in that big house. What if something happens to you? What if you fall and can't get help?" "I have my phone," I said. "I have my neighbors. I'm fine, Denise." "But Mama, it's not safe," Denise insisted. "You shouldn't be living alone at your age. You should be in a senior community where there are people around to help you." I felt my stomach tighten. We'd had this conversation before. "Denise, I'm not moving to a senior community. This is my home. I'm staying here." "Mama, be reasonable," Denise said. "Gregory and I have been talking. We think you should sell the house and move into assisted living. You'd be so much safer there." "I don't need assisted living," I said firmly. "I'm healthy. I take care of myself just fine." "But what about the house?" Denise pressed. "It's such a valuable property, Mama. Houses in your neighborhood are selling for $400,000 now. That's a lot of money just sitting there." And there it was, the real reason for the call, not concern for my safety, concern about the money. "The house is mine," I said. "I'll decide what to do with it." "Mama, don't be stubborn," Denise said, and now her voice had an edge to it. "We're your children. We're thinking about your future. And honestly, we need to think about our inheritance too. Gregory and I have been having some financial difficulties. If you sold the house, you could give us our share now instead of making us wait until—" She stopped herself, but I knew what she was about to say, "until I died." "Denise," I said quietly, "are you asking me to sell my home so you can have money now?" "I'm asking you to be practical," Denise said. "You don't need a 3-bedroom house. You're one person. Sell it, move somewhere smaller and safer, and split the money between me, BYRON, and SHANICE. We all need help, Mama. This would help all of us." I felt tears starting to form. "Goodbye, Denise," I said, and hung up before she could say anything else. Before we continue this story about how Lorraine's family tried to take her house and what she did about it, make sure you subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that like button and turn on an OTFICTONS because this story is going to shock you. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Are you in the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, South Africa? Let me know who's here with me. Now let's find out what Lorraine's other children wanted. The next day, my son BYRON showed up at my house unannounced. He's 45 years old, works as a financial consultant, and lives about 30 miles away with his wife Candace and their 3 children. I opened the door to find BYRON standing there with a serious expression on his face. "BYRON, what a nice surprise," I said, giving him a hug. "Come in, baby, I just made some lemonade." "Thanks, Mama," BYRON said, but he didn't smile. He followed me into the kitchen and sat down at the table. I poured us both some lemonade and sat across from him. "What brings you by?" "Denise called me," BYRON said. "She told me about your conversation yesterday." My heart sank. Did she now? "Mama, she's right," BYRON said. "You shouldn't be living alone in this house. It's too much for you. The maintenance, the yard work, the stairs." "I hired a young man from church to help with the yard," I interrupted. And I can manage the stairs just fine. Byron, I appreciate your concern, but I'm not helpless. I know you're not helpless, Byron said. But Mama, you need to think about the future. What happens when you can't manage the stairs? What happens when the house needs major repairs and you can't afford them? I have savings, I said. But why use your savings on an old house when you could sell it and have that money for your care? Byron argued. Mama, Denise, and I have been talking with Shanice. We all agree that you should sell this house. All three of you have been discussing my house behind my back, I asked, feeling hurt. We're your children, Byron said. We're looking out for you. And Mama, I'm going to be honest with you. Candace and I are struggling financially. My business hasn't been doing well. We've had to take out a second mortgage. If you sold this house and gave us our inheritance now, it would really help us get back on our feet. I looked at my son. Byron, you want me to sell my home, the home I worked 2 jobs to pay for, the home where I raised you, so you can pay off your debts. It's not just my debts, Byron said defensively. It's about being smart with assets. This house is an asset that's not being fully utilized. You're one person living in a house meant for a family. It doesn't make financial sense. This isn't about financial sense, I said, my voice rising. This is my home. These are my memories. Your father and I bought this house when you were 2 years old. We painted every room ourselves. We planted that garden out back. We celebrated every Christmas and birthday here. This house is more than an asset to me. I understand that, Mama, Byron said, but his tone suggested he didn't really understand at all. But you have to be practical. You're not going to live forever. When you're gone, we're going to have to sell the house anyway. Why not do it now when you can benefit from the money too? You could move into a nice apartment, have money left over for emergencies, and help your children who need it. Get out, I said quietly. What? Byron said, looking shocked. I said get out of my house, I repeated, standing up. You and Denise and Shanice can stop plotting about my property. This house is mine, and I'll decide what happens to it, not you. Mama, you're being unreasonable, Byron started. Unreasonable, I said, my voice shaking with anger. You come into my home and tell me I should sell it so you can pay your bills, and I'm being unreasonable. Byron, get out, now. Byron stood up, his face red. Fine, but Mama, you need to think about this. We're your family. We deserve to inherit what you've built. Don't be selfish. He walked out, slamming the door behind him. I sat back down at my kitchen table and cried. My children, my Bobbies that I'd raised and sacrificed for, saw me as an obstacle between them and money. They didn't care about me. They cared about my house. 2 days after Byron's visit, my youngest daughter, Shanice, called. She's 42 years old, works as a nurse, and lives in Florida with her partner, Trina. Hey, Mama, Shanice said when I answered. Her voice was gentle, concerned. How are you doing? I'm fine, baby, I said, though I wasn't fine at all. Mama, Denise and Byron told me they talked to you about the house, Shanice said. I want you to know that I don't agree with how they approached it. I felt a glimmer of hope. At least one of my children understood. Thank you, Shanice, I said. I appreciate that. But Mama, Shanice continued, I do think they have a point. You are getting older. That house is a lot for one person. Have you thought about downsizing? The hope died. Shanice, not you too. Mama, hear me out, Shanice said. I'm not saying you have to move into assisted living like Denise suggested. But what about a smaller house or a condo? Something easier to manage. You could sell the house, buy something smaller, and have money left over. And I suppose you'd like some of that leftover money, I asked bitterly. Mama, that's not fair, Shanice said. Yes, Trina and I could use some financial help. We're trying to adopt a child, and adoption is expensive. But that's not the only reason I'm suggesting this. I genuinely worry about you living alone in that big house. I've been living alone in this house for 15 years, I reminded her. My husband William had passed away when I was 58. I'd managed just fine since then. I know, Shanice said. But Mama, you're 73 now. Things change. What if you got sick? What if you needed care? Wouldn't it be better to have a financial cushion? I have savings, I said. I have my pension, I'm fine, Shanice. But the house is valuable, Shanice pressed. Mama, I looked up houses in your neighborhood. They're selling for $400,000 or more. That's a lot of money. Money that could help all of us, you, me, Denise, and BYRON. We're your children. Don't we deserve to benefit from what you've built? What I've built, I repeated. Shanice, your father and I built this house. We worked for it. We sacrificed for it. We did it so we'd have a home for our family, not so you three could sell it off the minute we're gone and split the profits. We're not trying to sell it the minute you're gone, Shanice said. We're trying to help you make a smart decision now while you're still here. The smart decision is to stay in my home, I said. The home I love, the home where I'm happy. Why can't any of you understand that? Because we're thinking about the future, Shanice said, frustration creeping into her voice. Mama, you're being stubborn. All three of us agree that selling the house is the best option. Don't you think that means something? It means all three of my children have forgotten what family is supposed to be about, I said. Family is supposed to care about each other, not about each other's property. That's not fair, Mama, Shanice said. We do care about you, but we also have our own lives and our own struggles. Is it so wrong to hope that our parents' estate might help us? Yes, I said. When you're pressuring your living mother to give up her home so you can have the money now instead of waiting. Yes, that's wrong. I can't believe you're being this selfish, Shanice said, and now she sounded angry. Fine, keep your house, but don't expect us to feel sorry for you when you're struggling to maintain it and can't afford the help you need. She hung up. I sat in my living room, looking around at the walls that held so many memories. The corner where we'd put the Christmas tree every year. The spot on the floor where BYRON had taken his first steps. The kitchen table where we'd had thousands of family dinners. My children didn't see any of that. They just saw dollar signs. A week after Shanice's call, all three of my children showed up at my house together. They didn't call ahead. They just appeared at my door on a Saturday afternoon. Mama, we need to talk, Denise said as she walked past me into my living room without waiting for an invitation. BYRON and Shanice followed her in. They all sat down on my couch, facing me like I was being called into the principal's office. What is this? I asked, still standing. We've been talking, BYRON said. All three of us, and Mama, we're united on this. You need to sell this house. We're not asking anymore, Denise added. We're telling you this is what needs to happen. Telling me, I repeated. In my own house, you're telling me what to do. Mama, sit down, Shanice said. Please, let's talk about this calmly. I sat down in my armchair, facing my three children. Three people I'd given birth to, raised, loved unconditionally. Three people who were now ganging up on me. Here's what we propose, BYRON said, pulling out a folder. We've done the research. Houses in this neighborhood are selling for between $380,000 and $420,000. We think we could get $400,000 for this house if we list it in the spring. We, I said, there is no we. This is my house. Mama, let him finish, Denise said. We found several nice senior living communities, BYRON continued. Studio apartments that would be perfect for you. They have activities, medical staff on site, dining rooms. I don't want to live in a studio apartment, I said. I want to live in my house. You're not listening, Denise said, her voice sharp. Mama, we're not giving you a choice anymore. We've consulted with a lawyer. We can petition the court to have you declared incompetent if you're not making sound decisions about your care and finances. I felt like I'd been slapped. You're threatening to have me declared incompetent. We're not threatening, BYRON said. We're explaining your options. Either you agree to sell the house voluntarily or we'll take legal action to protect you from yourself. Protect me from myself? I repeated, my voice rising. I'm 73 years old, not senile. I manage my finances. I take care of my home. I'm of perfectly sound mind. Then prove it by making the smart choice, Shanice said. Mama, we need this. Denise and Gregory are underwater on their mortgage. BYRON's business is failing. Trina and I need money for the adoption. We're your children. We're asking you, no, we're begging you to help us. By giving up my home, I asked. By being practical, Denise said. Mama, you're going to die someday. When you do, we're going to sell this house anyway and split the money 3 ways. Why not do it now when we need the help? I looked at my 3 children, at their expectant faces, at their entitlement, at their complete lack of understanding or compassion for what they were asking me to do. Get out, I said quietly. Mama, BYRON started. Get out of my house, I said louder. All 3 of you right now. You're making a mistake, Denise said, standing up. We're trying to help you. No, you're trying to help yourselves, I said. And I'm done listening to it. Get out. They left, but not before Denise turned back at the door. We'll be back, Mama, and next time we'll have a lawyer with us. After they left, I stood in my empty house and made a decision. If my children wanted to fight me for my house, they were going to lose, because I was going to make sure they never got it. But I didn't know yet how I was going to do that. I just knew I had to protect what was mine. Then, 3 days later, everything changed. A young woman knocked on my door, and she changed everything. 3 days after my children's ultimatum, I was sitting on my front porch on a Wednesday afternoon when a young woman walked up my driveway. She looked to be in her late 20s, black, with her hair pulled back in a neat bun. She was wearing scrubs, the kind nurses or medical assistants wear, and carrying a clipboard. Excuse me, she called out as she approached. Are you Mrs. Bishop, Mrs. Lorraine Bishop? I am, I said cautiously. Who's asking? My name is Imani Walker, the young woman said with a warm smile. I'm a home health aide. I work for community care services. Your daughter Denise contacted our agency about scheduling an evaluation for you. My blood ran cold. An evaluation. Yes, ma'am, Imani said, consulting her clipboard. She said you're living alone and she wanted us to assess whether you need assistance with daily living activities. She scheduled an appointment for today at 2 p.m. I hope that's okay. She said she'd let you know I was coming. She didn't tell me anything, I said, anger building in my chest. Denise had sent someone to evaluate me without my permission. This was the first step in having me declared incompetent. Oh, Imani said, looking uncomfortable. I'm so sorry. Would you like to reschedule, or I can just leave? Wait, I said. Something about this young woman's kind face made me pause. Did my daughter tell you anything about me? She said you're 73 and living alone, Imani said. She said she's worried about your safety and wants to make sure you're getting the care you need. What she wants, I said bitterly, is to have me declared incompetent so she can force me to sell my house. Imani's eyes widened. Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Bishop. I didn't realize there was family conflict involved. I can go. No, wait, I said again. I don't know why, but something made me want to talk to this young woman. Would you like some lemonade? It's hot out here. Imani hesitated. I probably shouldn't. I'm technically on the clock. I won't tell if you won't, I said with a small smile. Please, sit with me for a minute. Imani looked at me for a long moment, then smiled back. All right, thank you, Mrs. Bishop. I went inside and poured 2 glasses of lemonade, then came back out and handed one to Imani. She sat down in the chair next to mine on the porch. So, Imani said after taking a sip, you don't want me to evaluate you. My daughter wants you to find reasons why I can't live alone, I said, so she can use it against me in court. But the truth is, I'm doing just fine. I don't need help with daily living. I'm healthy, I'm independent, and I want to stay in my home. But your children want you to sell the house, Imani said. They want the money, I corrected. They don't care about me or what I want. They just care about getting their inheritance early. Imani was quiet for a moment. Then she said, my grandmother went through something similar. Did she? I asked. Yes, ma'am, Imani said. My uncle pressured her to sell her house and move in with him, said it was because he was worried about her. But really, he wanted to sell her house and use the money to start a business. My grandmother refused. They fought about it for years. What happened? I asked. She passed away 2 years ago, Imani said softly. Still living in her house, right up until the end. And you know what? My uncle sold that house within a month of her death and used the money for his business. The business failed within 6 months. All that fighting over money, and it didn't even help him in the end. I'm sorry about your grandmother, I said. Thank you, Imani said. But the point is, she was right to stand her ground. That house was hers. She earned it. She deserved to live there as long as she wanted. And Mrs. Bishop, if you're truly capable of living independently, then no one should be able to force you to leave your home. I felt tears forming. You're the first person who said that to me in weeks. My own children think I'm being stubborn and selfish. You're not selfish for wanting to keep what's yours, Imani said firmly. We sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, sipping our lemonade and watching the birds in my front yard. So what are you going to tell my daughter? I finally asked. Imani thought about it. I'm going to tell her the truth, that I came here and found you alert, oriented, capable, and clearly able to manage your own affairs. I can't falsify an evaluation just because your daughter wants a specific result. She's not going to be happy about that, I said. That's her problem, not mine, Imani said. Mrs. Bishop, my job is to help people who actually need help. You don't need help. You need your family to respect your choices. Thank you, I said. You don't know how much that means to me. You're welcome, Imani said, standing up. I should get going. Thank you for the lemonade. And Mrs. Bishop, stand your ground. This is your home. Don't let anyone take it from you. As she walked back down my driveway, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. This young stranger had shown me more kindness and understanding in 20 minutes than my own children had shown me in a month. I didn't know it yet, but that chance meeting with Imani Walker was going to change everything. 2 days after Imani's visit, Denise called me. She was furious. What did you say to that home health aide? Denise demanded. I didn't say anything to her, I said calmly. We had lemonade and talked. Well, she submitted her evaluation, and it says you're perfectly capable of living independently, Denise said. Mama, I paid for that evaluation so we'd have documentation that you need help. You paid for an honest evaluation, I said. You just didn't like the honest results. This is ridiculous, Denise said. Fine, we'll get a different evaluator, one who will actually see the situation clearly. The situation is clear, I said. I'm a 73-year-old woman who is healthy, independent, and wants to live in her own home. There's nothing unclear about that. Mama, we're trying to help you, Denise started. No, you're trying to help yourselves, I interrupted. And I'm done discussing this with you. Goodbye, Denise. I hung up before she could respond. 1 week after our first meeting, I was surprised to see Imani walking up my driveway again. This time, she wasn't in scrubs. She was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, and she wasn't carrying a clipboard. Imani, I said, stepping out onto my porch, what are you doing here? I hope this is okay, Imani said, looking nervous. I know this is kind of weird, but can I talk to you? Of course, I said. Come on in, I just made some tea. We sat down at my kitchen table. Imani looked around the house with appreciation. This is a beautiful home, she said. You can tell it's been loved. Thank you, I said. I've been here 45 years, raised all 3 of my children here. The ones who want you to sell it, Imani said. The very same, I said with a sad smile. Imani took a deep breath. Mrs. Bishop, I need to tell you something, and please don't think I'm crazy or out of line, but I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since we met. Oh, I said, curious. Your situation reminded me so much of my grandmother, Imani said, and it made me think about my own situation. Mrs. Bishop, I'm 28 years old. I work as a home health aide and I love my job, but the pay isn't great. I've been trying to save money to buy a house, but everything in this city is so expensive. I'm living in a tiny studio apartment and barely making ends meet. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. It's hard for young people these days. It is, Imani agreed. But Mrs. Bishop, I had an idea, and I know it's going to sound crazy, but please hear me out. I'm listening, I said. What if I moved in here? Imani said. Not as a caretaker, you don't need one, but as a... roommate. I could pay you rent. I could help with the yard work and any heavy lifting. I could be here in case of emergencies, and you'd have company. I stared at her. You want to move in here with me? I know it sounds strange, Imani said quickly. We barely know each other, but Mrs. Bishop, I think it could work. You'd have help around the house without giving up your independence. You'd have someone here so your children can't claim you're dangerously isolated. And I'd have a real home instead of a cramped apartment. It would help both of us. Why would you want to live with an old lady? I asked. Because you remind me of my grandmother, Imani said simply. She was strong and independent just like you. And honestly, Mrs. Bishop, I'd rather live with someone like you than with random roommates my age who just want to party all the time. I thought about it. Having someone in the house would solve several problems. My children couldn't claim I was dangerously isolated if I had a roommate. And the rent money would help with the maintenance costs they were always complaining about. But more than that, I liked Imani. In our brief interactions, she'd shown more kindness and respect than my own children had shown in weeks. How much rent would you pay? I asked. Whatever you think is fair, Imani said. I'm paying $800 a month for my studio right now. I could pay you that, or more or less, whatever works for you. The house is paid off, I said. I don't have a mortgage. $500 a month would cover the utilities and give me some extra for maintenance. That would be amazing, Imani said. Mrs. Bishop, are you seriously considering this? I think I am, I said slowly. But Imani, you should know my children are going to hate this. They're going to think you're taking advantage of me. Are you worried about that? Imani asked. No, I said, because I know you're not taking advantage of me. You're offering me a solution that works for both of us. And honestly, after the way my children have been acting, I don't much care what they think anymore. Imani smiled. So is that a yes? It's a yes, I said. When do you want to move in? Is next weekend too soon? Imani asked. Next weekend is perfect, I said. We shook hands across my kitchen table, and just like that, I had a roommate. I didn't tell my children. I figured they'd find out soon enough, and when they did, there would be hell to pay. But I didn't care. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was taking control of my own life again. Imani moved in the following weekend. She didn't have much, just a few boxes of clothes, some books, and a desk for her laptop. I gave her the guest bedroom that used to be BYRON's room. She settled in quickly and quietly. Having her in the house was wonderful. She was respectful of my space and my routines. She helped with the yard work without me having to ask. She cooked dinner sometimes and we'd eat together, talking about our days. It felt like having a granddaughter in the house. 2 weeks after Imani moved in, Denise showed up unannounced again. I heard her car in the driveway and went to open the door. Mama, we need to. Denise stopped mid-sentence when she saw Imani coming down the stairs behind me. Who is that? Denise demanded. This is Imani, I said. She's my roommate. You're what? Denise said, her voice rising. My roommate, I repeated. She rents the guest room from me. Denise pushed past me into the house. Excuse me, she said to Imani. I need to talk to my mother alone. That's fine, Imani said calmly. I'll be in my room if you need anything, Mrs. Bishop. She went upstairs. And Denise immediately rounded on me. What is going on? Denise hissed. You let a complete stranger move into your house. She's not a stranger, I said. She's a lovely young woman who needed a place to live, and I had an extra room. Mama, this is insane, Denise said. You don't know this person. She could be taking advantage of you. She could be after your money. She pays me rent, I said, and she helps around the house. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement. This is exactly what I was worried about, Denise said. You're not thinking clearly. You're letting strangers into your home, and you don't even see how dangerous that is. What's dangerous? I said, my voice hard. Is my own children threatening to have me declared incompetent so they can steal my house? We're not trying to steal your house, Denise said. We're trying to protect you, and now you've proven that you do need protecting. You let a complete stranger move in. Get out, I said. What? Denise said. Get out of my house, I said. You come here without calling. You insult my guest. You accuse me of not thinking clearly. I'm done with it, Denise. Get out. Fine, Denise said. But Mama, you've just given us all the evidence we need. A competent person doesn't let strangers move into their house. A lawyer is going to have a field day with this. She stormed out. Imani came downstairs a few minutes later. Are you okay, Mrs. Bishop? I'm fine, I said, but my hands were shaking. Denise was right about one thing. Having a roommate might look bad if they took me to court. Mrs. Bishop, Imani said gently, if my being here is going to cause you problems with your family, I can move out. I don't want to make your life harder. No, I said firmly. You're not moving out. Imani, having you here is the best thing that's happened to me in months. Don't let my daughter's tantrum change that. Okay, Imani said. But if you need me to testify or explain our arrangement to anyone, I will. I'll make it clear that this is a normal rental situation, not anything inappropriate. Thank you, I said. You're a good person, Imani. So are you, Imani said, and you deserve to be happy in your own home. 1 month after Imani moved in, I received a certified letter in the mail. It was from a law firm representing my 3 children. They were suing me. They'd filed a petition to have me declared incompetent and to appoint them as my legal guardians. The letter listed their reasons: my advanced age, my isolation, my poor judgment in allowing a stranger to move into her home, and my refusal to make sound financial decisions about her property. I sat at my kitchen table reading the letter over and over, feeling sick. My own children were taking me to court. Imani came home from work and found me crying. Mrs. Bishop, what happened? She asked, rushing over. I handed her the letter. She read it, her expression growing more and more angry. This is ridiculous, Imani said. You're clearly competent, any judge will see that. But what if they don't? I asked. What if my children convince a judge that I'm not thinking clearly? Imani, if they win, they'll force me to sell my house. They'll put me in a home. I'll lose everything. That's not going to happen, Imani said firmly. Mrs. Bishop, you need a lawyer, a good one, someone who specializes in elder law. I can't afford an expensive lawyer, I said. Yes, you can, Imani said. You told me you have savings. This is what that money is for, protecting yourself. She was right. The next day, I called a lawyer named Angela Brooks who specialized in elder law. I explained my situation, and she agreed to take my case. Mrs. Bishop, Angela said when we met in her office, your children are claiming you're not competent to manage your affairs. But from talking to you, you seem perfectly competent to me. We'll fight this. And if we win, they'll look foolish for bringing such a frivolous lawsuit. And if we lose? I asked. We won't lose, Angela said confidently. But Mrs. Bishop, I need to ask you something. You said your children want you to sell your house so they can have their inheritance now. Have you thought about what you actually want to do with your estate? What do you mean? I asked. I mean, when you pass away, who do you want to inherit your property? Angela asked. Because right now, I'm guessing your will leaves everything to your 3 children equally. It does, I confirmed. You might want to reconsider that, Angela said, after what they're putting you through. I thought about it. She was right. Why should my children inherit my house when they'd spent months trying to force me out of it? When they'd threatened me, ganged up on me, tried to have me declared incompetent. And then I thought about Imani, a young woman who'd shown me more kindness in 6 weeks than my own children had shown me in 6 months. And suddenly, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Angela, I said slowly, can I leave my house to someone who's not related to me? Of course, Angela said. It's your property. You can leave it to anyone you want. Then I want to change my will, I said. I want to leave my house to Imani Walker. Angela's eyebrows rose. Your roommate? Yes, I said. She's been more of a family to me than my own children. If anyone deserves this house, it's her. Mrs. Bishop, I have to make sure you understand what you're doing, Angela said. If you leave your house to a Manny, your children will get nothing. They could contest the will. Let them contest it, I said. I'm of sound mind. I know exactly what I'm doing. And Angela, I don't want to wait until I'm dead to do this. I want to give a Manny the house now. Angela stared at me. You want to deed the house to her, now, while you're still living? Yes, I said. Can I do that? You can, Angela said slowly. But Mrs. Bishop, that's a huge decision. Once you transfer the deed, the house won't be yours anymore. It will be a Manny's. Are you sure? I'm sure, I said. My children wanted my house. Well, now they can't have it. I'm giving it to someone who actually deserves it. What will you do? Angela asked. Where will you live? A Manny can't kick me out, I said. We'll put it in writing. I transfer the house to her, and in exchange, she lets me live here rent-free for the rest of my life. That way, I'm protected, and my children can't get their hands on my property. Angela was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. That's actually brilliant. Your children are suing you claiming you're incompetent, and you're going to prove you're competent by executing a perfectly legal estate planning strategy. Mrs. Bishop, I like the way you think. So you'll help me? I asked. I'll help you, Angela said. But we need to talk to a Manny and make sure she understands what's being offered and agrees to the terms. That evening, I sat down with a Manny and explained my plan. Her eyes got wider and wider as I talked. Mrs. Bishop, Manny said when I finished, I can't accept your house. That's too much, way too much. You're not accepting it as a gift, I explained. You're accepting it as part of a legal arrangement that protects me from my children. Manny, if you own this house, they can't force me to sell it. They can't control what happens to it. And when I'm gone, you'll have a home, a real home, something you could never afford on your own. But your children, Manny started. My children had their chance, I said firmly. They chose greed over love. Now they get nothing. You, on the other hand, have shown me kindness and respect. You deserve this. Mrs. Bishop, are you sure? Manny asked, tears forming in her eyes. I've never been more sure of anything, I said. 3 days later, Angela drew up all the papers. I signed over the deed to my house to a Manny Walker. In exchange, Manny signed an agreement allowing me to live in the house rent-free for the rest of my natural life, with full rights to use the property as I wished. And just like that, the house my children had fought so hard for became the property of a young woman they'd never even met. But they didn't know that yet, and when they found out, the explosion would be spectacular. 2 weeks after I transferred the deed to a Manny, the court date for the competency hearing arrived. My 3 children had no idea what I'd done. They thought they were coming to court to have me declared incompetent so they could control my property. They were about to get the shock of their lives. Angela Brooks, my lawyer, met me at the courthouse that morning. Manny came with me for moral support, though Angela had warned her she might be called to testify. Are you ready for this, Mrs. Bishop? Angela asked as we walked up the courthouse steps. I'm ready, I said, though truthfully my hands were shaking. I was about to face my 3 children in court, my Bobbies, the children I'd raised and loved. And I was about to tell them they'd lost. We entered the courtroom. My children were already there with their lawyer, a man named Gerald Foster who looked expensive and confident. Denise, BYRON, and SHANICE sat in a row behind their lawyer's table, all dressed formally. They looked like concerned children trying to help their aging mother. I knew better. The judge entered, a black woman in her 50s named Judge Patricia Reynolds. Everyone stood as she took her seat. Please be seated, Judge Reynolds said. We're here today on a petition filed by Denise Morrison, Lorraine Bishop, and SHANICE Bishop Clark to have their mother, Lorraine Bishop, declared incompetent and to appoint them as her legal guardians. Is the petitioner's counsel ready? Yes, Your Honor, Gerald Foster said, standing up. The petitioners are ready. And is counsel for Mrs. Bishop ready? Judge Reynolds asked. Yes, Your Honor, Angela said. The respondent is ready. Mr. Foster, you may present your case, Judge Reynolds said. Gerald Foster stood and began his presentation. Your Honor, this is a difficult case. The petitioners love their mother very much. but they're deeply concerned about her welfare and her judgment. Mrs. Lorraine Bishop is 73 years old. She lives alone in a large house that's becoming increasingly difficult for her to maintain. Her children have repeatedly expressed concern about her safety, but she refuses to consider more appropriate living arrangements. What kind of living arrangements have been suggested? Judge Reynolds asked. Assisted living facilities, senior communities, or even moving in with one of her children, Gerald said. All suggestions that would provide her with support and supervision. But Mrs. Bishop has refused all of them. Instead, she's made a decision that we believe demonstrates a lack of sound judgment. What decision is that? Judge Reynolds asked. She allowed a complete stranger to move into her home, Gerald said. A young woman named Imani Walker, who she'd only met once before allowing her to become a resident. This decision shows a dangerous lack of judgment that puts Mrs. Bishop at risk. I felt Imani tense beside me. Angela put a calming hand on my arm. Your Honor, Gerald continued, we've brought medical experts who will testify that Mrs. Bishop's insistence on remaining in an unsafe living situation, combined with her poor judgment regarding strangers, indicates she's no longer capable of making sound decisions about her own welfare. We're asking the court to appoint the petitioners as her legal guardians so they can ensure she receives appropriate care. Thank you, Mr. Foster, Judge Reynolds said. Ms. Brooks, would you like to respond? Angela stood. Yes, Your Honor. This case is not about protecting Mrs. Bishop. It's about 3 adult children who want to force their mother to sell her home so they can access their inheritance early. When Mrs. Bishop refused to sell, they filed this petition as a way to control her property. That's not true, Denise said from behind the lawyer's table. Mrs. Morrison, you'll have your chance to speak, Judge Reynolds said firmly. Continue, Ms. Brooks. Your Honor, will demonstrate that Mrs. Bishop is fully competent, Angela said. She manages her own finances. She maintains her home. She makes sound decisions. The fact that she chose to rent a room to a responsible tenant doesn't indicate incompetence. It indicates good judgment and practical thinking. We'll also present evidence that the petitioners have been pressuring Mrs. Bishop to sell her home for months and filed this petition only after she refused their demands. This should be interesting, Judge Reynolds said. Mr. Foster, call your first witness. Gerald Foster called a doctor named Dr. Raymond Mitchell, a geriatric psychiatrist who'd never actually met me. He testified that elderly people living alone often make poor decisions and that allowing strangers into one's home could indicate cognitive decline. Angela cross-examined him. Dr. Mitchell, have you ever evaluated Mrs. Bishop personally? No, I have not, Dr. Mitchell admitted. So your testimony is based entirely on general assumptions about elderly people, not on any actual evaluation of Mrs. Bishop specifically? Angela asked. I'm speaking to general patterns, Dr. Mitchell started. That's a yes or no question, doctor, Angela interrupted. Have you evaluated Mrs. Bishop? No, Dr. Mitchell said. Thank you, no further questions, Angela said. Next, Gerald Foster called Denise to the stand. She was sworn in and sat down, looking nervous but determined. Mrs. Morrison, can you tell the court why you're concerned about your mother? Gerald asked. I'm worried about her living alone, Denise said. She's 73 years old. What if she falls? What if she has a medical emergency? There's no one there to help her. Has your mother had any falls or medical emergencies? Angela asked when it was her turn to cross-examine. Well, no, but Denise started. Has she shown any signs of confusion, memory loss, or inability to care for herself? Angela asked. She lets strangers move into her house, Denise said. That shows she's not thinking clearly. Or it shows she found a practical solution to living alone by getting a responsible tenant, Angela said. Mrs. Morrison, isn't it true that you and your siblings have been pressuring your mother to sell her house for months? We've suggested she might be happier in a senior community, Denise started. Because you want access to the money from selling the house, Angela interrupted. Isn't that true? We're thinking about Mama's future, Denise insisted. You're thinking about your inheritance, Angela corrected. She pulled out a document. Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence a recording of a phone conversation between Mrs. Morrison and Mrs. Bishop, in which Mrs. Morrison explicitly says, and I quote, "We need to think about our inheritance, too. If you sold the house, you could give us our share now instead of making us wait." Does that sound like someone concerned about their mother's welfare or someone concerned about money? Denise's face went red. I didn't mean it like that. I think you meant it exactly like that, Angela said. No further questions. BYRON was called next. His testimony was similar, expressing concern about my living alone, claiming my decision to have a roommate showed poor judgment. Angela tore his testimony apart too, getting him to admit that he'd asked me to sell the house so he could pay off his business debts. SHANICE testified last. She tried to sound more sympathetic than her siblings, talking about how much she loved me and how worried she was. But Angela got her to admit that she'd also asked me for money for her adoption, and that she'd been angry when I refused. So all three petitioners, Angela summarized, have explicitly asked their mother for money from the sale of her house, and all three have expressed anger that she refused. And now they're trying to have her declared incompetent so they can force the sale anyway. Does that sound about right? Objection, Gerald Foster said. Argumentative. Sustained, Judge Reynolds said. But Ms. Brooks, you've made your point. Then it was our turn to present our case. Angela called me to the stand first. I was sworn in and sat down, looking out at my 3 children sitting in the courtroom. They looked back at me with expressions I couldn't quite read. Anger, worry, guilt. Mrs. Bishop, Angela said, how old are you? I'm 73 years old, I said clearly. And where do you live? Angela asked. I live at 847 Maple Street, in the house I've owned for 45 years, I said. Do you live alone? Angela asked. I have a tenant who rents a room from me, I said. Her name is Imani Walker. How did you meet Ms. Walker? Angela asked. I explained how Imani had come to my house for a home health evaluation, how we'd talked, and how she'd later approached me about renting a room. I explained that I'd agreed because it seemed like a mutually beneficial arrangement. She needed affordable housing, and I wanted help around the house and some company. Does that seem like an unreasonable decision to you? Angela asked. No, I said. It seems practical. College kids get roommates all the time. Why can't a 73-year-old woman have a roommate? A few people in the courtroom chuckled. Even Judge Reynolds smiled slightly. Mrs. Bishop, do you manage your own finances? Angela asked. Yes, I said. I balance my checkbook every month. I pay my bills on time. I manage my pension and my savings. Do you take care of your home? Angela asked. I do, I said. I clean, I cook, I do my laundry. My tenant helps with the yard work and any heavy lifting, but I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself. Why do you think your children filed this petition? Angela asked. I took a deep breath. Because they want me to sell my house so they can have the money from the sale. They've been pressuring me for months. When I refused, they threatened to take legal action. And here we are. Do you want to sell your house? Angela asked. No, I said firmly. I love my home. It's where I raised my children. It's where my husband and I built our life together. I want to stay there as long as I'm able. And are you able? Angela asked. Yes, I said. I'm healthy, I'm independent, I'm competent. My children just don't like my choices. Thank you, Mrs. Bishop, Angela said. No further questions. Gerald Foster stood up to cross-examine me. Mrs. Bishop, you say you're independent and capable, but isn't it true that you're having financial difficulties maintaining your house? No, I said. That's not true. I have savings. My house is paid off. I'm financially stable. But your children are concerned, Gerald started. My children are concerned about themselves, I interrupted. Not about me. Mrs. Bishop, don't you think it's unusual for a woman your age to take in a stranger as a roommate? Gerald asked. I think it's unusual for adult children to sue their parent for making a sensible housing decision, I shot back. A few people in the courtroom chuckled again. Judge Reynolds didn't stop them this time. No further questions, Gerald said, sitting down. Next, Angela called Imani to the stand. Imani was sworn in and sat down. She looked calm and professional in her work scrubs. She'd come straight from her morning shift. Ms. Walker, how did you meet Mrs. Bishop? Angela asked. Imani explained the whole story. How she'd been sent to evaluate me, how we'd talked, how she'd later approached me about renting a room. Why did you want to rent a room from Mrs. Bishop? Angela asked. Because I was living in a tiny studio apartment and barely making ends meet, Imani said honestly. Mrs. Bishop had a room available at a reasonable price. It was a good opportunity for both of us. Do you help Mrs. Bishop with household tasks? Angela asked. I help with yard work and heavy lifting, Imani said. But Mrs. Bishop doesn't need help with daily living. She's completely independent. I'm not a caretaker. I'm a tenant who helps out around the house, just like any good roommate would. How would you describe Mrs. Bishop's mental state? Angela asked. She's sharp as a tack, Imani said. She manages her finances, her household, her life. She's more organized than I am, honestly. There's nothing wrong with her mind. Thank you, Ms. Walker, Angela said. Gerald Foster's cross-examination was brief. He tried to suggest that Imani was taking advantage of me, but she calmly explained our rental arrangement and made it clear that everything was above board and mutually beneficial. After Imani's testimony, Judge Reynolds called for a recess. We went out into the hallway. My children didn't approach me. They huddled with their lawyer, looking worried. I think that went well, Angela said, but we still have the big reveal coming. I'm ready, I said. When we returned to the courtroom, Judge Reynolds said, Does either side have any additional evidence to present? Your Honor, Angela said, standing up, the defense has one more piece of evidence to present. It's directly relevant to the question of Mrs. Bishop's competence and her ability to make sound decisions about her property. Proceed, Judge Reynolds said. Angela pulled out a folder. Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence the deed to Mrs. Bishop's property at 847 Maple Street, which was executed 2 weeks ago. What deed? Gerald Foster asked, looking confused. The deed transferring ownership of the property from Lorraine Bishop to Imani Walker, Angela said calmly. The courtroom erupted. What? Denise shouted, jumping to her feet. She did what? BYRON yelled. Order, Judge Reynolds said, banging her gavel. Order in this courtroom. My 3 children were staring at me with expressions of pure shock and fury. Gerald Foster was frantically flipping through papers, clearly blindsided. Your Honor, Angela continued calmly, 2 weeks ago, Mrs. Bishop executed a perfectly legal property transfer, deeding her house to Ms. Walker in exchange for the right to live there rent-free for the rest of her life. This arrangement protects Mrs. Bishop's housing security while giving Ms. Walker ownership of the property. It's a sound estate planning decision that demonstrates Mrs. Bishop is not only competent, but quite shrewd. She can't do that, Denise shouted. That's our inheritance. Mrs. Morrison, sit down, Judge Reynolds ordered, and be quiet or I'll have you removed from this courtroom. Denise sat down, but she looked like she might explode. Your Honor, Gerald Foster said, recovering his composure, this property transfer is clearly the result of undue influence. Ms. Walker manipulated Mrs. Bishop into giving her the house. Oh, please, Angela interrupted. Mrs. Bishop made this decision with full legal counsel and complete understanding of what she was doing. The deed was properly executed, witnessed, and notarized. It's completely legal. But she gave away a $400,000 house, Gerald protested. It's her house, Angela said simply. She can do whatever she wants with it, and she chose to give it to someone who treats her with respect and kindness, rather than to 3 adult children who have been harassing her for months trying to force her to sell it so they could have the money. Judge Reynolds was looking at the deed documents Angela had submitted. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked up at me. Mrs. Bishop, Judge Reynolds said, did you execute this property transfer voluntarily? Yes, Your Honor, I said, standing up. I did. Did anyone pressure you or manipulate you into making this decision?" Judge Reynolds asked. "No, Your Honor," I said. "I made this decision with the advice of my lawyer, with full understanding of what I was doing. I wanted to ensure that my house would go to someone who deserved it, not to children who only saw it as a paycheck." "Your Honor, this proves she's not thinking clearly," Gerald Foster argued. "A competent person wouldn't give away their home to a stranger." "A competent person," Judge Reynolds said, "has the right to dispose of their property however they see fit. And from what I've heard today, Mrs. Bishop had very good reasons for making the decision she made." She looked at my children. "Did any of you ever consider that if you treated your mother with respect and kindness instead of pressuring her about money, you might have eventually inherited that house? Instead, you harassed her, threatened her, and then sued her. And now you have nothing." "Your Honor," Denise started. "I'm not finished," Judge Reynolds said. "I've heard testimony from all three petitioners today, and what I've heard is not concern for their mother's welfare. What I've heard is concern about money, about inheritance, about property. Not once did any of you talk about what would make your mother happy, only about what would benefit you financially." Judge Reynolds looked at the papers in front of her, then looked back up. "I'm ready to rule," she said. "Based on the testimony I've heard today, I find that Lorraine Bishop is fully competent to manage her own affairs. She's demonstrated sound judgment, clear thinking, and an understanding of her financial and living situations. The petition to have her declared incompetent is denied. Case dismissed." She banged her gavel. I felt tears of relief streaming down my face. Angela hugged me. Imani was crying too. Behind us, my children were in chaos. Denise was shouting at Gerald Foster. BYRON had his head in his hands. SHANICE was crying, but whether from anger or sadness, I couldn't tell. As we left the courtroom, Denise caught up with me in the hallway. "How could you do this to us?" she demanded. "That house was supposed to be ours. You had no right to give it to some stranger." "I had every right," I said calmly. "It was my house, and I gave it to someone who actually cared about me as a person, not just as a source of money." "We care about you," Denise insisted. "No," I said. "You care about yourselves. If you'd cared about me, you would have respected my wishes. You would have supported my choices. Instead, you tried to force me out of my home and sued me when I refused. You made your choices, Denise. Now you live with the consequences." "Mama, please," BYRON said, coming up behind Denise. "We made mistakes. We were wrong to pressure you, but you can't seriously give your house to someone you barely know." "I know her better than I thought I knew you," I said. "Imani has shown me more kindness in 2 months than you three have shown me in a year. She deserves that house. You don't." "What about your grandchildren?" Shanice asked, tears running down her face. "What about their inheritance?" "My grandchildren have parents who should be providing for them," I said, "not waiting around for grandma to die so they can cash in." "I can't believe you're doing this," Denise said. "You're destroying this family." "No," I said. "You three destroyed this family when you decided money was more important than love. I'm just making sure you don't profit from that decision." I walked away, leaving my 3 children standing in the courthouse hallway. As Angela, Imani, and I walked out of the courthouse together, I felt lighter than I had in months. My children had tried to take my home. They'd tried to control my life. They'd tried to have me declared incompetent. And they'd lost. They'd lost everything. But I'd won. I'd kept my independence. I'd protected my home. And I'd ensured it would go to someone who actually deserved it. The question now was, what would happen next? Would my children ever speak to me again? Would they accept what I'd done? Or would this be the final break between us? I didn't know. But for the first time in months, I felt like I was in control of my own life again. And that was worth more than any house. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 3 months after the court hearing, I was sitting on my front porch with Imani on a beautiful December afternoon. We were drinking hot chocolate and watching the neighborhood kids play in the leaves. Christmas decorations were starting to go up on houses down the street. "Mrs. Bishop," Imani said, "I still can't believe you gave me this house. Every day I wake up and think I'm going to find out it was a dream. It's not a dream, baby, I said with a smile. This house is yours, you earned it. I didn't earn it, Imani protested. I was kind to you, that's not earning a house. In a world where my own children couldn't manage to be kind to me, yes, it is earning it, I said. Imani was quiet for a moment, then she said, have you heard from any of them, your children? I shook my head. Not since the courthouse, 3 months of silence. That wasn't entirely true. Denise had sent several angry text messages the week after the hearing, accusing me of betraying my family and threatening to contest the property transfer. But her lawyer must have told her she had no case, because the threats stopped after that. BYRON had called once about a month ago, but I'd let it go to voicemail. His message was brief. Mama, I just wanted you to know that Candace and I are filing for bankruptcy. I thought you should know. He didn't ask for help, didn't apologize, just wanted me to know he was suffering. I deleted the message. SHANICE had sent a letter 2 weeks ago. It was different from her siblings' communications, sadder, more reflective. She wrote about how she'd been thinking a lot about our family, about the mistakes they'd all made. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't ask for money. She just said she missed me and hoped I was happy. I hadn't responded to the letter. I wasn't ready yet. Do you miss them? Imani asked gently. I miss who I thought they were, I admitted. I miss the children I raised, the people I believed they'd become. But those people either never existed or they changed into something I don't recognize. The Denise, BYRON, and SHANICE who showed up at my door demanding I sell my house. Those people I don't miss at all. That must be hard, Imani said. It is, I agreed. But Imani, you know what? For the first time in months, I'm at peace. I'm living in my home, well, your home now, on my own terms. I'm not being pressured or threatened. I'm just living, and that's worth more than anything. We sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Then a car pulled up in front of the house. My heart sank when I saw who got out. It was SHANICE, and she wasn't alone. She had a young woman with her, black, early 20s, with kind eyes. Mrs. Bishop, Imani said quietly, do you want me to tell them to leave? No, I said, standing up slowly. Let's see what they want. SHANICE walked up the driveway slowly, like she was approaching a wild animal that might bolt. The young woman walked beside her, holding her hand. Hello, Mama, SHANICE said when she reached the porch steps. Her voice was tentative, unsure. SHANICE, I acknowledged. Who's your friend? This is Maya, SHANICE said. My daughter. Trina and I finalized the adoption last month. My breath caught. You adopted her. You went through with it. Yes, SHANICE said. We used our savings. We didn't have much, but it was enough. Mama, I want you to meet your granddaughter. I looked at Maya. She had a shy smile and was looking at me with curiosity. It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Bishop, Maya said softly. Call me Grandma, I said before I could stop myself. Then I looked at SHANICE. Why are you here? Because I made a terrible mistake, SHANICE said, her voice breaking. Mama, I spent 3 months thinking about what happened, about what we did to you, and I'm ashamed. I'm so ashamed. You should be, I said, but my voice was gentler than I'd intended. We treated you like you were an obstacle instead of our mother, SHANICE continued. We cared more about money than about you, and when you made a decision we didn't like, we tried to take away your rights. We tried to have you declared incompetent. Mama, I can't believe we did that to you. Neither can I said. I don't expect you to forgive me, SHANICE said. I don't deserve forgiveness, but Mama, I wanted you to meet Maya, and I wanted to tell you that I understand now why you gave the house to Imani. She treated you the way we should have treated you. She cared about you as a person. We only cared about ourselves. I was quiet, processing her words. Imani stood up from her chair. Mrs. Bishop, Imani said softly, I'm going to go inside and give you some privacy. Thank you, baby, I said. After Imani went inside, I looked at SHANICE and Maya standing at the bottom of my porch steps. Why didn't you tell me you were adopting her? I asked SHANICE. Because you told me no when I asked for money, SHANICE admitted. I was angry. I felt like you didn't care about my family or my dreams. But Mama, you were right to say no. Trina and I needed to figure this out on our own. We needed to sacrifice and save and work for it. Maya means so much more to us because we earned her. We didn't just have her handed to us. Come sit down, I said, gesturing to the chairs on the porch. Shanice and Maya came up the steps and sat down. Maya was looking around with wide eyes. This is a really pretty house, Maya said. Thank you, baby, I said. I've lived here a long time. Mama told me you raised her here, Maya said, after her mom died. I did, I confirmed. Your mama was 12 years old when my late husband William and I took her in. She was hurting and scared and angry, but we loved her, and eventually she healed. I did heal, Shanice said softly. Because of you, Mama, you gave me a home when I needed one most. And how did I repay you? By trying to take your home away. Yes, I said bluntly, you did. I'm sorry, Shanice said, tears running down her face. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened to me. It's like I became someone I don't recognize. The money became all I could think about. Denise and BYRON kept talking about the inheritance, about how much the house was worth, about what we could do with that money. And I let myself get caught up in it. What about Denise and BYRON? I asked. Do they feel the same way you do? Shanice shook her head. No, Denise is still furious. She's convinced you're being manipulated by a Manny. BYRON is just focused on his own problems, his business failed, and he and Candace are going through bankruptcy. Neither of them can see past their own situations to recognize what they did wrong. But you can, I asked. I'm trying to, Shanice said. Mama, becoming a mother has changed me. When I look at Maya, I think about what kind of parent I want to be. And I realized I don't want to be the kind of parent who sees their child as a future source of money. I want to be the kind of parent you were, someone who loves unconditionally, who sacrifices, and who puts their child's needs first. I felt tears forming. Shanice. I'm not asking you to change your will, Shanice said quickly. I'm not asking for the house back. I'm not asking for anything except maybe a chance to rebuild our relationship. I want Maya to know her grandmother. I want to be part of your life again. Not because of what you can give me, but because you're my mother and I love you. I looked at this daughter of mine, the youngest of my 3 children, the one who'd always been the most sensitive, the most thoughtful, the one I'd hoped would be different from her siblings. And maybe she was. Maybe she'd learned something they hadn't. Shanice, I said slowly, I need you to understand something. What you and your siblings did hurt me deeply. It changed how I see all of you. I can't just forget that and go back to how things were. I know, Shanice said. I'm not asking you to forget. I'm just asking for a chance to show you that I've changed, that I can be better. I looked at Maya, sitting quietly between us, watching this conversation unfold. How old are you, Maya? I asked. I'm 22, Maya said. I aged out of foster care when I was 18. I've been on my own since then. When Shanice and Trina said they wanted to adopt me, I couldn't believe it. I thought I was too old for anyone to want me. No one is too old to need family, I said gently. That's what they told me, Maya said with a small smile. They said family isn't just about blood, it's about choice, about choosing to love someone and show up for them. Her words hit me hard. Family is about choice, about choosing to love someone and show up for them. Wasn't that exactly what Manny had done? She'd chosen to show up for me. She'd chosen to treat me with respect and kindness when my own children hadn't. But didn't Shanice deserve a chance to make that choice too? To choose to be better? All right, I said finally. Shanice, I'm willing to give you a chance, but I need you to understand, this isn't going back to how things were. This is starting over, building something new. And if you ever treat me the way you did before, we're done. Permanently. I understand, Shanice said, fresh tears flowing. Thank you, Mama, thank you so much. And Maya, I said, looking at my new granddaughter, you're welcome here anytime. This is your grandmother's house. Well, technically it's a Manny's house now, but I live here, and you're always welcome. Maya smiled. Thank you, Grandma. We sat and talked for another hour. Shanice told me about the adoption process, about Maya's background, about their plans for the future. Maya told me about going to community college and studying to be a social worker. I told them about Imani and how our living arrangement was working out. It felt good. Not perfect. There was still hurt and distance between Shanice and me that would take time to heal. But it felt like a beginning. 2 months later, on Christmas Eve, Imani and I were decorating the house for the holidays. We'd put up a tree in the living room, the same corner where William and I had put trees for 40 years. There was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Shanice, her partner Trina, and Maya standing there with presents and a homemade pie. "Merry Christmas, Mama," Shanice said. "Merry Christmas, baby," I said, hugging her. "Come in, come in." They came inside, and Imani came out of the kitchen to greet them. Over the past 2 months, Shanice and Imani had gotten to know each other. It was a little awkward at first. Shanice was meeting the woman who'd inherited what should have been her inheritance. But Imani's warmth and kindness had won Shanice over, just like it had won me over. "Trina, Maya, this is Imani," I said, making introductions. "Imani, this is Shanice's partner Trina, and you've met Maya." They all greeted each other warmly, and we settled into the living room. The house smelled like the gingerbread cookies Imani and I had baked earlier. Christmas music played softly in the background. "Mama," Shanice said after we'd been talking for a while, "I need to tell you something. Denise called me last week." I tensed. What did she want? "She's still angry," Shanice admitted. "She wanted me to join her and BYRON in contesting the property transfer. She said if all 3 of us challenged it together, we might have a case." "What did you tell her?" I asked. "I told her no," Shanice said firmly. "I told her that you had every right to give your house to whoever you wanted. I told her that we'd treated you terribly and we deserved to be disinherited. And I told her that I was working on rebuilding my relationship with you, and I wasn't going to destroy that by joining another lawsuit." "How did she react?" I asked. "She hung up on me," Shanice said. "We haven't spoken since. BYRON sided with her. I think the 2 of them are still plotting something, but Mama, I want you to know I'm not part of it. Whatever they do, it's without me." "Thank you for telling me," I said. "There's something else," Shanice said. She pulled an envelope out of her purse. "Maya and I wanted to give you this." I opened the envelope. Inside was a Christmas card with a handwritten note. "Dear Mama, we can't give you back the months of peace we took from you. We can't undo the hurt we caused, but we can promise to do better going forward. We can promise to love you for who you are, not what you have. We can promise to show up to call, to be present. This Christmas, our gift to you is our commitment. We choose you. We choose family. We choose love over money always. Merry Christmas, Mama, we love you. Shanice, Trina, and Maya." I wiped tears from my eyes. "This is the best gift you could have given me." "We mean it," Shanice said. "Every word." We spent Christmas Eve together, me, Imani, Shanice, Trina, and Maya. We ate dinner, exchanged gifts, and sang Christmas carols. For the first time in months, my house felt like a home again. Not because of the building itself, but because of the people in it. People who had chosen to be there. People who valued love over money. People who understood what family really meant. 6 months after Christmas, I was sitting in my backyard. Well, Imani's backyard now, watching the flowers bloom. Spring had come, and with it, new life and new beginnings. Imani came outside with 2 glasses of lemonade. "Mrs. Bishop, you have a visitor," she said. I looked up to see Denise standing at the back door. My oldest daughter. The one who'd started all of this by demanding I sell my house. I hadn't seen her since the courthouse, 6 months ago. "Mama," Denise said quietly, "can we talk?" I looked at Imani. She nodded and went back inside, giving us privacy. "Sit down, Denise," I said, gesturing to the chair beside me. Denise sat down. She looked older than I remembered. Tired. There were lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before. "I owe you an apology," Denise said without preamble. "I treated you terribly. I tried to force you out of your home. I tried to have you declared incompetent. I sued my own mother because I cared more about money than about you. And I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry." "What changed?" I asked. 6 months ago, you were furious with me. According to Shanice, you wanted to sue me again." "I did," Denise admitted. I was angry and bitter and convinced that you'd been manipulated. But Mama, something happened that changed my perspective. What? I asked. Gregory left me, Denise said, her voice breaking. Last month. He said he couldn't take the financial stress anymore. He said I'd become obsessed with money and it was destroying our family. He took the boys and moved out. We're getting divorced. Oh, Denise, I said, feeling a pang of sympathy despite everything. And you know what the worst part is? Denise continued, tears running down her face. He was right. I had become obsessed with money. I'd convinced myself that if we just had more money, everything would be okay. If we could just get your house, we could pay off our debts and fix our marriage and everything would be perfect. Money doesn't fix marriages, I said gently. I know that now, Denise said. Mama, I destroyed my family chasing after your money, and in the process, I lost everything that actually mattered. My husband, my relationship with my sons, they're barely speaking to me. My relationship with you, all for money I was never entitled to in the first place. You weren't entitled to it, I agreed. Denise, that house was mine. I worked for it. I paid for it. And I had the right to do whatever I wanted with it. I know, Denise said. I see that now. Mama, I'm not here to ask you to change your will or give me money or anything like that. I'm just here to apologize and to tell you that I understand why you did what you did. Imani treated you better than I did. She deserved the house more than I did. I was quiet for a long moment. Then I said, Denise, I appreciate your apology, I do. But I need you to understand something. What you did hurt me in ways I can't fully explain. You made me feel like my worth was only in what I could give you. Like I didn't matter as a person, only as a source of money. I know, Denise whispered, and I'm so sorry. Are you apologizing because you truly understand what you did wrong? I asked. Or are you apologizing because you lost your husband and you're lonely and you need someone? Denise flinched. That's fair, I deserve that. And Mama, honestly, maybe it's a little of both. Maybe I wouldn't have come here if Gregory hadn't left. Maybe I needed to lose everything to understand what I'd done. But that doesn't make my apology less sincere. I truly am sorry, and I truly do understand now that I was wrong. I looked at my oldest daughter, my firstborn, the baby girl I'd held in my arms 38 years ago and promised to always love and protect. And I realized something. I'd protected her from the consequences of her actions for too long. I'd given in when she pressured me. I'd made excuses for her behavior. I'd enabled her sense of entitlement. By giving my house to Imani, I'd finally stopped protecting Denise from the natural consequences of her choices. And maybe, just maybe, that's what she'd needed all along. Denise, I said slowly, I accept your apology, but I need you to understand, our relationship is not going back to how it was. Just like with Shanice, we're starting over, building something new, and that's going to take time and effort from both of us. I understand, Denise said. Mama, can I ask you something? What is it? I asked. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? Denise asked. Truly forgive me. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe someday. But Denise, forgiveness isn't something you can demand or expect. It's something that has to be earned, and it takes time. I have time, Denise said. Mama, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll prove to you that I've changed. We'll see, I said. We sat in silence for a few minutes, sipping lemonade and watching the birds in the yard. What about BYRON? I finally asked. Have you talked to him? Denise shook her head. He's still angry. He blames you for his bankruptcy. He says if you just sold the house when we asked, he wouldn't have lost his business. My house wouldn't have saved his business, I said. If he was failing financially, that's because of his own poor decisions, not because of me. I know, Denise said, but he can't see that. He needs someone to blame, and you're convenient. Will he ever come around? I asked. I don't know, Denise admitted. Maybe, or maybe he'll stay angry forever. That's his choice to make. 1 year after I'd given my house to Imani, we threw a party. Not a big party, just a small gathering of the people who mattered. Imani invited her mother and her 2 sisters. Shanice came with Trina and Maya. Denise came alone. She and Gregory were still separated. though she was hopeful they might reconcile someday. We gathered in the backyard on a beautiful summer evening. There was food and music and laughter, and for the first time in years, I felt completely at peace. "Mrs. Bishop," Imani said, pulling me aside, "I wanted to tell you something. I've been talking to my mom and we had an idea." "What kind of idea?" I asked. "Well, this house has 4 bedrooms," Imani said. "You use one, I use one, and 2 are sitting empty. My mom is getting older. She's 68 now, and she's been struggling with living alone since my dad died. What if she moved into one of the empty rooms? We could make this a real multi-generational home." "You want your mother to live here?" I asked. "If that's okay with you," Imani said. "I know technically the house is mine now, but Mrs. Bishop, this is still your home. I wouldn't make a decision like this without talking to you first." I thought about it. "I think that's a wonderful idea. Your mother is welcome here." "Thank you," Imani said, hugging me. "Mrs. Bishop, I still can't believe you gave me this house. It's changed my entire life." "You deserved it," I said simply. "You showed me kindness when I needed it most. This house should belong to someone who understands what a home really means." As the party continued, I looked around at the people gathered in my backyard. Imani and her family, Shanice, Trina, and Maya, even Denise, tentatively rebuilding our relationship. This wasn't the family I'd expected to have. I'd thought my 3 biological children would be by my side in my old age. I'd thought they'd inherit my house and treasure it the way I had. Instead, I had a different kind of family, a chosen family. People who valued me for who I was, not what I had. People who showed up not because they had to, but because they wanted to. And you know what? This family was better. My name is Lorraine Bishop. I'm 74 years old. Last year, my 3 children wanted my house, so I gave it to a stranger. It was the best decision I ever made. Because in the process of protecting my home from greedy children, I found something more valuable than any property. I found people who truly cared about me. My children wanted my house, but Imani wanted me, and that made all the difference. BYRON never did come around. He stayed angry and bitter until the end, but that was his choice, and I made peace with it. Denise slowly rebuilt our relationship over the next 2 years. She got back together with Gregory, worked on her marriage, and learned to value people over possessions. We would never be as close as we once were, but we found a new kind of relationship built on honesty and respect. Shanice became one of my closest companions. She, Trina, and Maya visited every week. Maya called me every Sunday just to talk. They showed me what family could be when it was based on love instead of obligation. And Imani, she became the daughter I never knew I needed. She took care of me when I got sick. She held my hand when I was scared. She listened to my stories and laughed at my jokes. She made this house a home again. 2 years after I gave her the house, Imani got married to a wonderful man named Marcus. They had their wedding reception in our backyard, and I cried happy tears watching her dance with her new husband. 3 years after that, Imani had a baby, a beautiful little girl she named Lorraine after me. I held my namesake in my arms and felt a joy I never thought I'd experience again. This house, the house my children wanted to steal from me, became a home filled with love and laughter and multiple generations. It became exactly what a house should be. And when I die, hopefully many years from now, this house will stay with Imani and her family. It will stay with people who understand that a home is more than just property. It's a place where people are valued, where love matters more than money, where family is defined not by blood, but by choice. My children wanted my house. They saw it as an asset, a paycheck, an inheritance they were entitled to. But I gave it to a stranger who saw it as a home. And she gave me back something far more valuable. She gave me dignity, respect, and true family. So yes, I gave my house to a stranger, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because sometimes, the family you choose is better than the family you're born with. And sometimes, a stranger becomes family while your family becomes strangers. That's the lesson my children never learned, but it's the lesson that saved my life. This story teaches us Sparkle's adult children are not entitled to their parents' property. Sparkle's family should be based on love, not financial expectations. Sparkle's kindness from strangers can mean more than obligation from relatives. Sparkle's parents have the right to control their own property. Sparkle's greed destroys relationships. Sparkle's true family is defined by actions, not blood. Sparkle's standing your ground is sometimes necessary. Sparkle's chosen family can be more valuable than biological family. If this story moved you, subscribe for more powerful family stories. White heavy checkmark, smash that like button. Turn on notifications. Drop a comment. Did Lorraine do the right thing giving her house to a Manny? Should she have forgiven her children? Where are you watching from? United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, South Africa, Kenya, Australia. Remember, you don't owe your children your house. Adult children who pressure elderly parents for money are showing greed, not love. Competency lawsuits are often about control, not care. Your property is yours to do with as you choose. Kindness and respect matter more than blood relation. Standing up for yourself is not selfish. You deserve to live in your home as long as you want. Elder abuse includes financial manipulation by family. True family shows up without expecting payment. Inheritance is a gift, not an entitlement. Parents who enable entitled adult children create monsters. Setting boundaries with family is healthy. Choosing dignity over appeasing ungrateful relatives is brave. Never let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting what's yours. Thank you for following Lorraine's journey from family pressure to chosen family.